isn't it? Okay. Is there anyone watching? Okay. So, hello. My name's Danayutta. Really, really warm welcome to the London Buddhist Center. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes before we start our yoga class. So do roll out your mat, get yourself a prop or two. We won't be using any belts today, but we'll definitely be meditating for a little while. So if you've got meditation cushions, that would be a good thing to get. And also you can have a yoga block or two or a couple of thick books to sit on if you don't have any meditation cushions. So I'm here in the room with Polly, who is the tech person for the day. And it's always such a delight when I know that Polly is my tech person. I really, really enjoy doing these classes with her. So do say hello in the chat box. It would be nice to know who I'm practicing with and where you guys are from. Yeah, so just to say that also usually on Fridays, Shraddha has been taking the class, but it's really nice actually because she's been able to go away on holiday this week. So I'm really, really pleased to be teaching the class for her so that she can go away. We just shuffled our class schedule around. So I just imagine Shraddha being in Wales, surrounded by green and river and sky and mountains. So very, very pleased for her. Yes, so welcome if you've just joined us as well. We're going to be meditating for a little bit at the start and at the end. So do make sure you've got something to sit on. I think often people who practice yoga often think that you can just sort of sit cross-legged on your yoga mat without anything underneath your hips. But it's definitely infinitely better if you are able to have at least even sort of like a sofa cushion underneath your bottom just to raise your hips a little bit so that your hips are higher than your knees. It will make meditation more enjoyable. Yeah. So do get yourselves ready. And we'll just be starting in a couple of minutes now. So has anyone said hello, Polly? Oh, no. Do say hello. Do say hello in the chat box. It really does help if I know that there are people practicing. Yeah. Yeah, so we're just going to wait another minute or two so that people can join us, and we'll be starting our yoga class very, very shortly. So do get yourself your yoga mat and your props. It's ready for a 45-minute yoga class today. And yeah, so just before we start, what I'd really like to say is that next week I'm going to be running a yoga intensive with Anna, who is another teacher who teaches here at the London Buddhist Center. We're going to be running a yoga and meditation intensive. So in the mornings at 7:30 till 9 a.m., Monday to Friday, and also in the afternoons, 5:15 to 6:15. We'll be running this. We've run at least one of these intensives. We run them on Zoom, and I'm just really excited about running these intensives on Zoom, because what Zoom allows us to do is just to watch you practice and to give you verbal adjustments or verbal corrections or even alternatives. You know, if we notice that it might be easier if you approach posture a different way. So Anna and I are going to be doing that. I'm going to be leading the yoga in the morning, so kind of an invigorating, slightly more dynamic yoga class from 7:30, and then Anna will take us into some meditation. And then in the afternoons, Anna will be leading a restorative session. So it's a very, very gentle floor-based practice, a very good way to wind down from work if you're working, or to sort of prepare, sort of shift gears into the evening. So Polly's going to put the link into the chat box if she hasn't already. And I just really encourage you to join us. I think there's a lot of benefit from doing yoga classes on YouTube, that's for sure. At the same time, if you're only doing yoga classes on YouTube, then there's no one who's watching you practice. So Zoom just allows us to do that, and it's a very, very intimate way to practice. It's a very sort of in-depth way to practice. And because we're going to be doing the classes every day from Monday to Friday, there's a way to sort of build on our practice as well. We can sort of like go deeper with each session. So we're going to start this particular class now. So a really warm welcome to you if you've just joined us. Do say hello in the chat box. Say your name. It's really, really nice to know who you're practicing with, who I'm practicing with. And just to say that the theme for this yoga class is the sky. So Shadagita's set us this really, really lovely theme of reaching for the sky. And the sky is a particular metaphor in Buddhism. And it's a metaphor that can point to the nature of our mind and the way that we can approach our experience. So there is one verse in the Dhammapada, which is a very ancient Buddhist text that always reminds me of the sky. It doesn't sort of explicitly say sky, but it talks about our habits and the sort of habitual patterns we create. And when we're wiser, when we're more awake, when we're enlightened, we're free. We're free from going down these habitual patterns. And whenever I hear this particular quote, this particular verse, which I'll read out in a moment, I often think of birds flying through the sky. If you are walking in the forest, very, very likely you'll be following a path that other people have followed. And that might be good. At the same time, we tend to keep to those paths. But when birds fly in the sky, they don't follow any particular track. They don't follow any particular path. They're free to move wherever, up, down, sideways, backwards. So I find the sky a particularly sort of compelling metaphor for freedom. So I'll just read this verse twice. It comes from the Dhammapada, like I said. And it's in chapter 14, chapter of the enlightened ones. And it's the first verse. So it says, that enlightened one whose sphere is endless, whose victory is irreversible, and after whose victory no defilement remains, by what track will you lead him astray, the trackless one? So I'll read it again. That enlightened one whose sphere is endless, whose victory is irreversible, and after whose victory no defilements remain, by what track will you lead him astray, the trackless one? So the phrase trackless one always reminds me of moving in the sky. And that's what really we're trying to do in our practice, our Buddhist practice, our meditation practice, our yoga practice. We're trying to cultivate experiences of freedom or practice being free. So when you approach your meditation, one way to think about this is like each breath is the new breath. Each breath is a breath that you've never breathed before. When you're cultivating the metta bhavana, freedom might be found in stepping out of yourselves and into shoes of the other person. What would it be like to be them? And that immediately widens your perspective. And then when you practice asana, when you practice yoga asana, when you practice yoga postures, it's as if you come to each posture anew, afresh, really seeing what it is you can feel in your muscles, to feel in the body right now. Sort of letting go of any habitual ways of being or doing the posture and coming to it completely anew. So I'll keep talking and referencing the sky as we go through, but what I'd like us to do is just to settle down into a little meditation, and I'll guide us into the clear blue sky. So if you're not already sitting up cross-legged, I suggest that you do that now. If you find crossing your legs quite difficult, you might just want to sit astride and kneel like this. That's also okay. Or you can have your feet flat on the floor and your arms on your knees so that your back can be upright. So settling into meditation position just for 3 or 4 minutes. And as you settle into the posture, as you settle into the shape that you're making in space, see if you can already start to cultivate a spacious shape. So lengthening your spine as much as you can without overexerting. And letting the shoulders fall away from your ears. Letting your chest and your back be broad. And relaxing your arms, softening your fingers. As you keep feeling into the body, you might want to reflect that one of the qualities of the sky is that it's completely infinite. If you move towards the sky, you never quite find a place called sky. You never reach a place called sky. It's just space. So see if you can imagine the body to be like that. Spacious. Really feeling your body from edge to edge. Perhaps even dissolving the edges a little. And then finally turning your attention to your mind, the quality of your mind. And just notice whether your mind is cluttered or spacious. Are there many thoughts, many worries? Or are the thoughts perhaps quite slow? Quite a big pause between them. Just practicing letting go of thought, arriving back into a spacious body. And from an experience of cultivating space, let's just start to move and stretch. So opening your eyes, interlacing your fingers, pressing your palms out in front of you, tucking your head and curling your spine round, drawing your tailbone forwards. Taking long, deep, slow breaths, breathing a little bit more space between your shoulder blades, inhaling and exhaling. Making more space between the shoulder blades, breathing in and breathing out. We'll just take another breath here. And as you breathe in, reaching your arms up, sitting up tall. Breathing out, taking a little stretch to one side. Inhale, coming back to center. Exhale the other way. And inhale, coming back to center. So pop one hand onto the opposite knee. Look round towards the back of the room. Let's draw ourselves into a twist. Breathing in, Breathing out. Letting the chest really expand. Lots of space. And breathing out. Good. Let's twist around the other way. So sitting up tall, cultivating spaciousness in the twist. So that's one way you can cultivate a sense of spaciousness, is to sit up nice and tall and lengthen the spine. Try not to allow the spine to collapse. And you can also take longer, deeper, slower breaths. So breathing in and rib cage stretching out to the sides. And breathing out. Good. Inhale, look back to center. And then come onto your hands and your knees. So moving your cushions to one side, your blocks to one side. Come into your hands and your knees. And we're just going to continue warming up a little bit more. So as you breathe out, we're going to do some cat-cow. Lift the spine, tuck the head in, tuck the tailbone in. Breathing in, dropping the belly, lifting the tailbone, lifting the chin. So exhaling and inhaling. So you might just want to close your eyes and really notice what it's like in your spine, in your back, all the different sensations. And then just noticing areas where the spine feels tight or uncomfortable or immobile or obstructed. And then also notice the bits of the spine that seem to be moving quite well, the bits of the spine that are mobile or spacious, sort of like moisturized or juicy. And probably in an area as large as your back and your spine, there will be all sorts of these sensations present. Bits that feel tight and bits that feel open. And just notice that you've got a choice. You've got a choice about where you put your attention. Okay, let's just do one more. Really exhale, tuck the head in, look towards your pelvis. And then as you inhale, drop the belly, lift the tailbone, lift the chin. And then come into downward dog. So you tuck your toes under, lift your hips up and back. Tuck your head in, downward dog. So don't worry too much about your legs for now. Mainly when you take the first downward dog of the day or of the class, you mainly want to concentrate on making a little bit more space and length in the upper body. So from your tailbone to your hands, see if you can stretch and lengthen in that plane. So you're making more space in the spine, moving your hips away from your shoulders, and you're spreading your fingers and straightening your arms. Don't worry about the legs can be a little bit bent. And then bring your knees back down. Good. We're going to take a different kind of shoulder stretch. So reach your arms forwards, keep your hips over your knees, drop your armpits towards the ground. Drop your chin or your forehead towards the ground. If you're less flexible, probably you want to drop your forehead. If you're more flexible, you probably want to drop your chin. And then you have a sense that you're allowing your armpits to be drawn towards the ground by gravity. And then instead of coming back onto all fours, just going to come onto our bellies. Have your shoulders underneath your elbows underneath your shoulders, forearms parallel, just coming into an engaged sphinx. So we're still warming up the body. So don't worry if you can't make a very, very sort of strong or big back bend, but see if you can be engaged, particularly in the front of the body. You want to imagine from your navel up the front of the body, up the center of your mouth, center of your nose, and then up through the center of your forehead. You're just lengthening and engaging through the front of the body. So you're drawing the crown of your head upwards, away from your navel. Let's just take one more breath here. And then you might either want to stay in Sphinx, or if you're feeling strong, see if you can straighten your arms. So you take your hands mat width apart. So you move your hands so they're mat width apart. And you straighten your arms. So most yoga teachers tend to call this posture seal. The only thing about seal is just to make sure that your shoulders don't lift up towards your ears. So you're still cultivating plenty of space between your shoulders and your ears. So you're drawing your shoulder blades down. And also try not to hyperextend your elbows. So a tiny little micro bend in your elbows. Just take another breath here. And then bend your elbows, coming all the way back down. Hands underneath your shoulders, push yourselves back. Just come back to downward dog, or if downward dog is a little bit more challenging today, perhaps child's pose will do. But, for me, I think I'll just stay in downward dog. So making sure that the feet are parallel, fingers are spread. And you're continuing to cultivate space between your hips and your hands. So the main way that you want to do that is just to make sure that you're engaged in the belly. The engagement in the belly, the lift of the navel up towards the spine, is what moves your hips away from your hands. Making sure that you're still tucking your head in and you're looking towards your own belly button. We'll just take another breath here, and then we're going to do some standing postures now. So bringing your right foot forward, bend your right knee. Let's all come into warrior one. Lifting the chest, looking up towards your hands. Good. So nice big stance in warrior one. Sometimes what can happen if our hamstrings aren't particularly long is that we come into a short warrior one when we step through from downward dog. So if that's you, you might just want to make sure that your feet are sufficient distance apart. Just take a little bit of a shuffle and have your feet a little bit further apart. Remember to lift the chest and look up between your hands. So another way that we sort of talk about the mind being like the sky is just that to be free from distraction. So just notice what it is that you've been thinking about for the last few moments, whether your mind has been like a clear blue sky, or if you've got lots and lots of clouds and passing through your sky-like mind. We'll just take another breath here. And then let's do warrior one on the other side. So turn your right foot in, turn your left foot out. If your arms are a little bit tired, you can just drop your arms for now, or if you're feeling strong, you can just leave your arms where they are. It's warrior one on the other side. So noticing what it's like in your mind, what it's like having a sky-like mind. One of the things I've sort of missed in the pandemic is seeing condensation trails. So because we've had less planes flying, there haven't been so many sort of streaks across the sky. And sometimes I think that my mind's a little bit like that, like very, very busy with like little condensation trails moving across the sky. Okay. Coming into warrior two. So leaving your left foot forwards, taking your arms out to the sides, just coming into warrior two for now. I think like with postures that are sort of familiar, like warrior one and warrior two, very, very easy to sort of do warrior one and warrior two in a sort of habitual way. What happens if you do warrior one and two in a habitual way is that sort of like take yourself into the shape, and then sort of your mind just switches off. But once you've noticed what your mind is like, the sort of mind that you're working with, you can then take your mind a little bit more sort of closer to your direct experience. So take your mind into your thighs, into your feet. Take your attention down your arms and into your hands. What's warrior two actually like on this side? Okay, and then we're just going to switch sides. So left foot turns in, right foot turns out. Warrior two. Other way. Very good. Again, if your arms are getting a little bit tired, you can just drop your arms for a moment and then reset them in warrior two position. So having a sense of what it's actually like in the arms. And with Warrior Two arms, you mainly want to have a sense of space without strain. So you're not trying to sort of overextend or overexert yourselves and stretching your arms out. But there is still this sense of spaciousness, a sense of infinite length through the arms, but without strain. We'll just take another breath here. And then just relax your right leg for now. Perhaps straighten it. And then bend your right knee again. Let's come into Parsvakonasana. So, bending your right knee quite a lot, arm resting on your knee, left arm comes up and over. You can also take your right hand down to the floor or use a couple of blocks next to your right foot. Whichever version of Parsvakonasana that you're doing, that's fine, but see if you can cultivate a sense of space and length in the left side of the body. So feeling into your left fingertips, reaching your left fingertips away from your left foot. Remembering to breathe, just using the breath to cultivate a sense of spaciousness in the left hip, and the left side of the belly. And then coming all the way up. We'll just do that on the other side. So turn your right foot in, turn your left foot out, bend your left knee quite a lot, rest your arm on the knee, right arm comes up and over. Again, if you want to, you can take your left hand down to the floor. Might need a block or two to help you do that. But see if you can continue to extend your attention into the right side of the body and making the right side of the body long and spacious. So moving your right fingertips away from your right foot, stretching along the hip, the belly, the rib cage, the shoulders. Using the breath to find a tiny little bit of extra space. Okay, I'm coming all the way up. Good. Turn your feet so that they're parallel to each other. We're going to do a little bit of forward bending with wide legs today. So starting with legs straight and your feet parallel. So have a little look at your toes. If your toes are turned out, just turn them in a little bit. And then come into a forward bend, taking your hands down to the ground. If they don't quite reach the ground, maybe take your feet a little bit wider, or you can use a block or two. So your hands should be well supported so that your shoulders can be relaxed. And your legs are straight. Sometimes if your legs start to shake here, that's okay to like bend your knees a little bit. But the point of these forward bends is mainly legs straight. And you want to feel as if your sit bones are lifting up towards the sky. So this posture is called Prasarita Padottanasana. Keep lifting your sit bones up, dropping your head and relaxing your shoulders. Okay, and then hands on your hips. Inhale, coming all the way up. Good, give your knees a little bit of a bend, relax your hamstrings, and let's do a forward bend with a twist. So, see if you can bring your left hand onto the floor a little bit in front of your feet. So there's about 12 inches, a foot in front of your toes, and your hands are in line with, your left hand's in line with the center line of the body. Again, you might find it easier if you're using a block, particularly on its long edge. And then reach the right shoulder up towards the sky. Reach your right arm up towards the sky. So this is a forward bending twist. I'm less interested in the forward bend, a little bit more interested in the twist. And you're trying to cultivate a vertical line from your left hand to your right hand. So really notice how you've placed your shoulders, where the center line of your chest is facing. Keeping both legs straight, particularly on this side, your left knee will want to bend. And then let's go the other way. So right hand comes down. Really lift the left shoulder up towards the ceiling. Lift the left arm up towards the ceiling. So again, really paying attention to the line of your arms, where your shoulders are. Open up the right shoulder, open up the left shoulder, and then check your right knee. Just make sure the right knee is straight. Okay, and then drop your left hand, hands on the waist, and inhale, coming all the way up. Good. Let's bring the feet together. We're going to do a little bit of a balance today, and we're going to do dancer pose. So when you're ready, just catch hold of your right foot, and we'll just start by finding our balance. So with these balance postures, it's really, really important that you cultivate a sense of really standing up tall. And the main sort of ingredient in balancing is just to really use your core. If your belly's flopping out, it does make it quite hard to balance. So you want to be really, really upright and tall. The other thing, which is much harder if you're following a class on YouTube, is that you want to look at a point in front of you that's not going to move. So if you're staring at me on your little computer screen or your little phone screen, you'll probably find it harder to balance. So just find a spot in front of you. Let's change sides. So just catch hold of your left ankle. So again, finding a sense that you're standing up tall, just seeing what it's like to look at a spot in front of you. We won't be doing anything different than from the first side. Okay, and then letting your foot go. So when you're ready, just catching hold of your right foot, we're going to extend the posture a little bit. Maybe I'll turn around this way. And what you're going to do is you're going to lift the right knee backwards. And then you're going to press your right foot against your right hand a little bit like you're trying to straighten the right leg. So once you've found your balance here again, just look ahead of you if you can. See if you can extend your left arm. We'll just stay here for a couple more breaths. Breathe in, breathe out, and then coming out. Good. Other side, just catching hold of your left ankle. So you know what you're going to do now. So lift the left knee backwards without dropping your chest too much. As a little bit like straightening the left foot. If you can find your balance, extend your right arm, looking in front of you as much as you can. Okay, and then relaxing. Good, come into a low forward bend. So holding onto your elbows, drop your head. So one of the sort of ways to talk about sky, talk about space in Buddhism, probably also in Hinduism, is akasha. So it's a Sanskrit word, it's a Pali word, and what it means is infinite space. And akasha is also synonymous with emptiness, the concept of emptiness, of being sort of free from any fixed preconceptions, any fixed conceptualization. So you're completely free. And the corollary of that is that it's full of potential. So it's not an emptiness that's devoid of anything. It's an emptiness that's full of potential. So just coming all the way up. One more little thing before we just do that again is in Buddhist mythology, there's also, there are beings that dance in the Akasha, sky dancers, and they're called Dakinis or Dakas. So Dakini would be the female form and Daka would be the male form. So as we come into dancer pose again, you might just want to imagine yourself as a kind of beautiful, wild Dakini or a kind of really incredibly handsome wild daka. Yeah. So coming into dancer again, taking hold of your right foot, lifting your right ankle backwards, lifting the knee, a little bit like straightening the leg, keeping the chest lifted. And once you've found your balance, left hand extends out in front of you. So remember that you do need to really engage in the front of the body, having a sense of space and length. A beautiful wild dancer. And then coming all the way down. And other side. So lifting the left knee, lifting the left foot. Extending the arm if you're feeling steady. Good, keep lifting and straightening the leg against your hand. Okay. Very, very good. So coming to the top edge of your mat, we'll do a short vinyasa. So breathing in, lifting your arms up, reaching up towards the sky, breathing out, folding forwards, bending your knees, hands on the floor. So lift the head, lift the chest, straighten out your back, coming into Uttanasana, looking out in front of you. Take one long inhale here, and as you exhale, stepping back into Chaturanga, bending your elbows, dropping your knees if you need to, coming into Upward Dog. Space in your shoulders, in your neck, away from your ears, and then rolling over your feet, coming in to Downward Dog. So probably from the last time you've done Downward Dog, this Downward Dog may feel quite different because your legs are a lot warmer. So start to straighten your legs, ground your heels. Last time I was teaching these classes, I was talking a little bit about your ankles. So see if you can engage your feet so you're not collapsed in your ankles. Particularly, most people tend to collapse their ankles inwards, and their instep also collapses. So see if you can lift your instep a little bit, be engaged in your feet. And then walk your feet towards your hands, cross your legs, and sit down. We'll do a little bit of forward bending. So tuck the right foot in, straighten out the left leg. I'm just coming into Janusharshasana A. Reaching the arms forwards. You can catch hold of your ankle. You can just walk your hands along your mat. So these seated forward bends tend to be postures where the mind sort of naturally comes back into the body. Naturally sort of like slightly closed off postures. But see if you can continue to maintain a sense of a broad perspective. So even in the forward bend, try not to let perspective collapse. Okay, and then inhale, coming all the way up. Other side. So tuck your left foot in, keep the right leg straight, flex the right foot. And one way to make sure that you're not collapsing your mind, collapsing the perspective of your mind, is just to, again, come back to the posture anew. So really noticing how it is that you've placed your shoulders, your spine, your hips, your right leg. Often when we're sort of pushing in the wrong way in the posture, tension can creep in places that you're not actually tensing or engaging. So particularly in Janusharshasana, I often see people with tension in the shoulders. But actually, for this posture, not very much is meant to be happening in the shoulders. If there's tension and engagement, it's mainly in the extended leg or in the thigh of the knee that's bent. So if you notice tension in the shoulders, see if you can just relax that whole area. Good. And then inhale, coming all the way up. Bend both knees now. We're going to come into Baddha Konasana. So feet open, knees out to the side. See if you can use your hands to move your big toes apart and keep your little toes together. And then let's come into a forward bend and see if you can keep the spine as straight and as long as possible. Your elbows are coming onto the tops of your thighs, keeping length and space in the back as you come forwards, forwards. Engaging your knees so that engaging your thighs so that your knees are drawing down towards the ground. And just take another breath here. And then inhale, coming all the way up. Hug your knees together. Relax the insides of your thighs. And let's just do a little stretch, a little twist, very, very simple one. So have your feet a little bit apart, maybe slightly wider than hip width apart, and see if you can sit up tall. And then take your right elbow, your right shoulder to your left knee. Prop yourselves up with your left fingertips behind you. Keep your legs engaged so your knees don't move. And it's almost like you're moving your shoulder against your knee to take yourselves into the twist and look around towards the back of the room. We'll just take another breath here. So really breathe in, finding space in the spine. Breathing out. And then let's go the other way. So lifting up, using the fingers on your right hand to prop yourselves up, using engagement in your thighs and your knees to take you into the twist. Okay, and relaxing. Hug your knees into the chest. See if you can lie back. One hand on each knee, and we'll just circle the knees. I want to finish with a couple of things on the ground. So when you're ready, right foot on the floor, left foot, ankle just close to the knee. Hug your knees into the chest. Very, very simple. Hip stretch. So you're holding onto the back of the right thigh. And as you come into this position, very easy to make a funny shape in your shoulders and your neck. So see if you can just tuck your chin in. That tends to lengthen out the back of your neck. So before we started the class, Polly and I were chatting, and she was asking me a little bit about how I keep my yoga practice up. I think particularly in the lockdown, one of the things that I've been thinking about is the lineage of teachers. So every day before I do my yoga practice, I think about my teachers and then their teachers and so on. And I bring this up in this class because often what appears in the sky when we meditate on the blue sky is one's teachers. So that's often a meditation practice that people can take on. And I think there's something about recollecting people who are wiser than us that can really, really help and be an inspiration and an encouragement to practice. Okay, let's change sides. So feeling into your right hip. Just making sure that there's no tension in the shoulders. Seeing what the right hip's like, the right thigh. Okay, and then relaxing. So stretch your legs out in front of you, stretch your arms backwards, breathe in. Big stretch, point your toes, stretch your fingers, breathe out and relax. Let's just do that one more time. Breathing in, big stretch. Breathing out and relaxing. So bring your hands down by your sides, allowing your feet to flop apart. Just a couple of minutes of Shavasana. So the last little image of the sky that I want to offer today is that the mind is like the clear blue sky. And very often, what causes us suffering is that we identify with the clouds. We're completely identified with our bad moods, with our little delusions, our little fantasies. Mostly it's a fantasy of like this thing or that thing. If we had it, we'd be happy. And all it is that we've forgotten that we're a clear blue sky rather than a cloud. So for the next few moments, see if you can just practice being a clear blue sky, remembering that you're not a cloud. Okay. So rolling over onto your side when you're ready and sitting up. And sit in meditation posture. I will finish by reading the verse again. So getting into meditation posture, sitting upright. Perhaps closing your eyes. Long spine, broad shoulders. The enlightened one, whose sphere is endless, whose victory is irreversible, and after whose victory no defilements remain. By what track will you lead him astray, the trackless one? Okay. So just before we close, I just want to again remind you of the intensive that I'm leading with Anna next week. Starts 7:30 a.m. on Monday morning. And there'll be 2 sessions a day, Monday to Friday. So I just really want to encourage you to book onto the intensive. I think these YouTube classes are really, really good. And just being able to watch each other practice is like much, much better. And also just following a course for a week allows us to sort of have more depth in our practice, follow a thread of practice through. And then, so that's one thing, the intensive. The other thing is just to remind you about dana, generosity. So here at the London Buddhist Centre, we run on an economy of generosity. Sometimes people think that the LBC is funded, by a local government, by a rich patron. Kind of wish that we had one, but we're not. We're actually funded by all of us. I give my time, Polly gives their time, and I hope that you are moved to support us by making a donation. So there's a link to donate. And if you'd like to, I don't know, give towards this class, suggested donation is £6. But feel free to give us more or less, but definitely more. So that's all from me, and I'll see you hopefully on an intensive, otherwise next week sometime. Bye for now.